In late December 2022, a massive winter storm swept across the United States, freezing runways and bringing commercial aviation to a sudden, shivering halt. The immediate industry consensus was simple: extreme weather was the absolute cause of the operational chaos. A hazard of this scale was bound to create delays. This chart shows the comparative flight cancellation data between major U.S. airlines during that exact same storm. Notice the vast gap in performance. While most major carriers managed to cap their cancellations at around 3%, Southwest Airlines experienced a staggering 60% system-wide failure rate. The math simply does not align with a weather-only hazard. Standard risk assessments categorize severe weather as an external hazard to be checked off a list. But looking only at the hazard ignores the structural seams, the invisible dependencies that connect a route map to a software system. To understand why one airline collapsed while its competitors recovered, we have to perform a structural autopsy using the 6 deficits methodology. The investigation points directly to the operational center of the crisis, Southwest's internal crew scheduling software, known as SkySolver. This diagram illustrates SkySolver's role in the organization. Under the 6 deficits methodology, this is classified as a pivot domino, a single infrastructure node taking in hundreds of active data streams, completely lacking a substitute path. When an immense volume of weather-related schedule changes flooded the network, that highly dependent central node saturated and shattered. Without the central software, the airline lost what the framework calls visibility and flow. Schedulers were forced to track thousands of misplaced crew members entirely by hand, relying on individual phone calls and text messages. This exposes a severe continuity deficit. There was no 72-hour degraded conditions protocol in place to manage operations without their primary software, leaving recovery up to sheer manual labor. By allowing the entire enterprise to bottleneck through a single, unreplaceable system, the architecture ensured that a software failure would become a systemic collapse. This raises a logical question. If the software failed, why couldn't local teams simply reposition their stranded flight crews on their own? This map shows the network deficit. It contrasts a standard hub-and-spoke model with Southwest's signature point-to-point route structure. The point-to-point architecture completely lacks the major central consolidation hubs that competitors use to gather and reassign personnel during a crisis. This exact structural design left flight crews hopelessly scattered across the continent, with no central location to reposition from. This vulnerability was a known risk. An integrity deficit meant a previous mass cancellation event in October 2021, flagged at the time by the pilots' union, was never escalated into corrective investment. The airline was physically trapped by its own route map. The exact geographical structure that generated their historical profits made emergency recovery impossible. In response to the failure, Southwest committed to massive remediation efforts, specifically a $1.3 billion IT rebuild scheduled for 2028, alongside newly trained surge staffing protocols. These investments effectively neutralize the immediate flow, visibility, and continuity deficits identified in the autopsy. Yet there is a glaring omission in their public remediation plans. The fundamental network deficit remains structurally untouched. Software can be replaced, but altering a point-to-point network topology would require destroying and rebuilding the company's entire business model. True corporate resilience requires accepting an uncomfortable reality. Sometimes a company's most catastrophic vulnerabilities are the exact same architectural choices that drive its greatest successes.